You may have seen this before without thinking much about it. Two small plants sitting close to each other. One is planted in soil. You water it, you wait, and after a few weeks, it still looks tired. The leaves may be dull. The growth feels slow. Right beside it, another plant sits in a simple glass of water. No soil at all. And yet, in just a few days, you begin to notice something surprising. Thin white roots start to appear. They stretch slowly, almost quietly, as if the plant has found something it prefers. At first, this feels backward. We are used to thinking that plants need soil to survive. Soil has always been part of gardening. So when something grows faster without it, it can feel confusing. If this feels strange to you, that's very common. Many gardeners have seen this happen and wondered the same thing. Over time, this pattern shows up again and again. Plants that struggle in soil sometimes respond quickly when placed in water. There is no digging. No heavy lifting. No bending down for long periods. Just a simple container and a bit of patience. And somehow, it often works better than expected. There is a reason behind this. A quiet explanation that makes everything feel a little more clear. But before explaining why this happened, it helps to understand how plants actually take in what they need. When we think about soil, we often think of it as something plants depend on. But soil is not the food. It is more like a storage place. Inside soil, there are nutrients, small particles, and moisture. The roots of a plant move through the soil, searching for these things. They absorb water, and inside that water are the nutrients the plant needs to grow. So in a way, water is doing most of the work. It carries nutrients into the plant. The soil simply holds everything together and keeps moisture around the roots. But if water already carries what the plant needs, then soil becomes less important than we once thought. When a plant is placed directly in water, something interesting happens. The roots no longer have to search through dense soil. They do not need to push or spread as much. Everything is already within reach. The water surrounds them fully. This can make the process easier for the plant, especially in the early stages. That is why you sometimes see roots forming faster in water. The plant is not working as hard to find what it needs. It simply responds to the environment around it. This is not a trick. It is just a different way of giving the plant access to moisture. Of course, this does not mean soil is bad. Soil still has an important role in long-term growth. But for starting new plants, or helping certain cuttings grow roots, water can be surprisingly effective. Many gardeners try this method once and feel disappointed. They place a cutting into water, wait a few days, and nothing seems to happen. The plant just sits there, unchanged. After a week, it may even look weaker. This can feel discouraging, especially when others seem to get quick results. Often, the issue is not the method itself, but a small misunderstanding. One common mistake is placing too much of the plant into the water. When leaves sit below the surface, they begin to break down. This can affect the water quality and slow root growth. The plant is not failing. It is simply reacting to a condition that is not ideal. Another quiet mistake is using water that does not stay fresh. When water sits for too long without being changed, it can lose oxygen. Roots need oxygen just as much as they need moisture. Without it, growth slows down. This is not something you can always see, but the plant feels it. Some people also expect roots to appear at the same speed for every plant. But each plant has its own rhythm. Some respond in days. Others take a few weeks. This is not a sign of failure. It is simply a difference in how each plant grows. Once these small details are understood, the process begins to feel easier. You are no longer guessing. You are observing. Now, there are a few plants that respond especially well to growing in water. These are often the best place to begin, especially if you are looking for something simple and encouraging. One of the easiest is mint. If you take a small cutting and place it in water, it often begins to root within days. The stems are soft, and they respond quickly. You may notice tiny white roots forming along the lower part of the stem. These roots grow steadily, without much effort from you. Another gentle starter is Pothos. It is known for its trailing vines and heart-shaped leaves. When placed in water, it adapts very easily. The nodes along the stem, which are small bumps where leaves grow, begin to produce roots. This plant is forgiving. Even if conditions are not perfect, it usually finds a way to adjust. These early successes are important. They build confidence. They show you that the method works, and they allow you to observe changes without stress. You begin to notice how roots form, how leaves stay fresh, and how the plant slowly settles into its new environment. As you watch closely, you may discover something unexpected. A small change, almost too simple to notice at first, can make a difference in how quickly roots appear. If you place your container near gentle light, not harsh sunlight, but a soft, indirect glow, the plant begins to respond differently. The water stays clearer. The leaves remain calm. And often, the roots begin to form a little sooner. Light plays a quiet role here. Too much direct sun can warm the water and create stress. Too little light can slow the plant's natural process. But a balanced spot, such as near a window with filtered light, gives the plant a steady environment. Another small change is the type of container you use. Clear containers allow you to see the roots as they grow. This helps you understand what is happening below the surface. But sometimes, slightly darker containers can reduce algae growth in the water. Both options work, but each has its own small effect. When you notice these differences, something shifts in your thinking. You are no longer just placing plants in water. You are observing how they respond. This is where gardening becomes calmer. There are also plants that grow quietly in water without needing much attention. These are not fast growers, but they are steady. They do not demand daily care. They simply continue, slowly and consistently. One example is lucky bamboo. It is often grown in water from the beginning. It does not require soil at all. With a bit of clean water and a stable position, it continues to grow upward over time. Another is spider plant. When the small offshoots, often called babies, are placed in water, they begin to root gently. These roots may take a little longer to appear, but once they do, the plant becomes quite stable. You may also notice herbs like basil adapting to water, especially when cut fresh and placed in a glass. They can remain green and active for a longer period, sometimes even producing new growth. These plants are helpful because they do not require constant checking. You can place them in a suitable spot and simply observe from time to time. This approach suits many people who prefer a slower pace. However, you might notice that results are not the same in every home. In some places, roots appear quickly. In others, the process feels slower. This difference often comes down to the environment. Temperature plays a quiet role. In warmer conditions, plants tend to respond more quickly. The water remains active, and the plant's internal processes move at a steady pace. In cooler spaces, growth may slow down. This does not mean the plant is unhealthy. It simply means it is taking more time. Light also varies from home to home. A bright room with soft sunlight can support faster root growth. A darker corner may delay it. Small adjustments, like moving the plant closer to a window, can make a gentle difference. Even the type of water used can have a subtle effect. In some areas, tap water contains minerals that plants respond to differently. Letting water sit for a short time before using it can sometimes help balance this. These are not strict rules. They are gentle observations. When you notice them, you begin to understand why your results may look different from someone else's. Now, as we come to the final group of plants, there is one important idea that brings everything together. It is something many people overlook at first. Plants like Philodendron and Coleus also grow well in water. They follow the same pattern as the others. Place a cutting in water, keep the leaves above the surface, and wait. Roots will begin to form from the nodes. But the real key is not the type of plant. It is the part of the plant you choose. The node, that small joint along the stem, is where roots are meant to grow. If this part is not placed in water, the plant may not respond the way you expect. This is the detail many people miss. They focus on the leaf or the length of the stem, but the node is what matters most. Once you understand this, everything becomes clearer. You are no longer guessing where roots will appear. You know exactly where to look. At this point, the process feels less like trial and error, and more like quiet understanding. There is also one gentle caution to keep in mind. Over time, water can become cloudy or develop a slight odor. This is a sign that it needs to be refreshed. Changing the water every so often helps keep the environment healthy for the roots. It does not need to be done every day. Just a simple check now and then is enough. If the water looks unclear, replace it. If it looks clean, you can leave it a bit longer. At this point, the process feels less like trial and error, and more like quiet understanding. There is also one gentle caution to keep in mind. Over time, water can become cloudy or develop a slight odor. This is a sign that it needs to be refreshed. Changing the water every so often helps keep the environment healthy for the roots. It does not need to be done every day. Just a simple check now and then is enough. If the water looks unclear, replace it. If it looks clean, you can leave it a bit longer. Also, avoid placing the container in very hot or very cold areas. Sudden changes in temperature can affect the plant. A stable, calm spot is always best. These small habits are not difficult. They are gentle adjustments that support long-term health. As you spend more time with this method, something begins to shift. Gardening feels less like a task and more like observation. You are not rushing to fix things. You are simply watching how the plant responds. In many cases, doing less leads to better results. The plant is already doing what it knows how to do. Your role becomes lighter. You provide a stable space, and the plant continues on its own. If you are comfortable sharing, I'm curious which plant you might try growing in water first, or if you've already seen this happen in your own home. In the end, this approach is not about replacing soil completely. It is about understanding that plants have more than one way to grow. When we step back and observe, we begin to notice these quiet possibilities. Sometimes, the garden improves not because we do more, but because we allow things to happen naturally. And often, the most helpful thing we can do is simply watch, adjust gently, and trust the process.